Hey, welcome to the Podcast Accelerator, the thrice-weekly show that brings you podcast education, industry insights, and straight-talking reactions to podcasting news. I'm your host, Mark Asquith, that British podcast guy and CEO and co-founder of Rebrand Media, the podcast tech company that creates the Podcast Success Academy, podcast websites, Productivity, Rebel-based studios, and Captivate.fm, the world's only growth-oriented podcast host, where you can get your first month of podcast hosting for just $1, and you can transfer an existing podcast in completely for free. Go and please check that out at Captivate.fm. Now, today on the show, we're going to wrap up the podcast rebrand story. We're going to wrap up talking about podcast rebranding. And I'm going to talk in particular about measuring the success of your podcast rebrand. But before I do that, I just want to remind you that AWeber is still giving you that 90 days completely for free. I mention it every session because I think it's important, all right? You have to be email marketing to your audience. You've got to be building relationships. You've got to be building engaged friendships. That's what we do this for, isn't it? To share our voice and to reciprocate, to get knowledge back, to get relationships built and to build friendships and to understand our world, to understand what people want, all right? And that is the role, the complete role of email marketing. So please, if you're not generating anything from your email marketing, then you are, I promise you, you are missing something. So please go and check it out at markasquith.com/AWeber and get your 90 days for free. Alrighty then, rebranding a podcast can feel like a bit of a mammoth task, can't it? But once you've gone through it, what key metrics should you be looking at outside of downloads? Well, what about softer brand-led metrics? And what about how you feel? You see, when you rebrand a podcast, it's very easy to say, well, my downloads have gone up, or my downloads have gone down, or my downloads haven't changed. That's fine. You know, you can explain away any of those three scenarios, up, down, or stick. You can explain them away pretty easily. Now, when I rebranded the 7-Minute Mentor to this, the Podcast Accelerator, my download numbers went up, and they continue to go up because people tend to want something from me that's podcast-oriented. It's just what people want from me. Now, it's not a failure if your podcast numbers don't go, because think about this. You may lose some subscribers. You can do all the technical wizardry that you want. You can make it as easy as possible to keep subscribed technically, but some people might not like your new direction. So what? All right. What's more important is understanding the brand metrics. All right. What's the engagement like from those who do enjoy it? So your super fans, excuse me, what are they saying? What are they doing? What is their feedback? Because your goal is to build more of those. Your goal is to build more super fans. And the more you listen to those guys and listen to their feedback and implement feedback and measure it and test the results, the more super fans you will garner. And that is a strong metric. What identifies a super fan? Well, it's probably the fact they get in touch with you. All right. What else can we look at? Well, what about how the heck you feel? You know, if you rebranded your podcast because you were bored of your existing topic, or because you just weren't feeling it, or you weren't quite sure on whether you could keep doing this for the long term because it wasn't interesting you as much as it used to, well, what do you feel like now? What do you feel like right now? How does it feel to have rebranded? Because ultimately, you start your business, you create your podcast, you start your show, whether it's a hobby podcast or whether it's a business podcast or a content marketing podcast. No matter what you do, you start this show because you enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it anymore, then you ain't going to stick to it. So what I'm talking about here is, have you given yourself sustainability? Have you given yourself that fire and that passion that you can measure and you can put your kind of hand on and say, yeah, this is it. I'm fired up for this. I can see myself batch recording this, or I can see myself wanting to talk about this every single day or every single week or 3 times a week or once a month, whatever your release schedule is. These are very important things to consider that no one really tells you, all right? Because podcasting is the long game. You ain't going to be an overnight success, and anyone that is an overnight success has not done that without a pile of money and a pile of resource going into it. There are no accidental successes when it comes to podcasting, because it doesn't work like that. It's a word of mouth medium. It's a marketable medium. You have to tell people about your show. That's why it's a slow burn. All right. And people get annoyed at hearing that, but it is an actual fact. So I want you to start to consider some of the other metrics, again, that other people probably aren't talking about. Sure, download numbers, website analytics, your email subscribers, your Twitter followers, your Instagram followers, your Facebook likes. That's all stuff you should be measuring anyway. Like, you should anyway be doing that. There's no reason to not be measuring that, okay? But what else can we add to the mix that is softer, that is more about how you feel, that is more about understanding where you sit in your own podcast brand? What can I do to keep this up, to enjoy it, to love what I'm doing? Have I fallen back in love with my podcast? Have the people who have always been fans of mine, have they come with me? Are they now even bigger super fans? What are they telling me? Are they telling their friends? Okay? And you can ask for that feedback. Pick a channel. Hey guys, if you like this show, hit me up on Twitter at Mr. Asquith. That is it. Don't dilute it. Don't tell them to email you. Don't tell them to Instagram you or Facebook. You just pick one channel. Or pick email. But if you pick one, stick to it. All right, guys, if you want this and you like it, hit me up, mark@rebelbasemedia.io. That is it. All right, pick one tool and one channel and say to them, this is how I want you to tell me that you like it. And then measure it. What does that look like? How does it feel? All right. So it's really, really difficult rebranding a podcast. It sounds really easy. It sounds like you just change the name and the kind of cover art. But to properly rebrand it and do it thoughtfully, it's not that easy. All right. So think that through. Let me know how I can help. And again, follow my own advice. Hit me up on Twitter. At Mr. Asquith. That's the quickest place to have a conversation with me. At Mr. Asquith, all right? So, thank you, as always, for joining me here on the Podcast Accelerator. Remember to tell all of your podcasting friends that the show is available to listen to for free in any app that supports podcasts. And if you're wondering what the best next step to take for your own podcast is, whether you're a new podcaster or a veteran podcaster, go ahead and take our short 5-minute survey where I'm going to help you to diagnose and solve the main issue holding your show and your podcast growth back. And I'm going to give you access not only to the solution to that problem, but also to our free, vibrant Podcast Rebellion community, our weekly free group coaching from me and the team, actionable insider-only emails, and even a free invitation to the Podcast Success Academy. So please, go ahead and invest 5 minutes now to grow your podcast by heading to rebelbasemedia.io/grow. And until next time, thank you for joining me, and never forget, the more you expect from yourself, the more you will excel.